Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, What's New in Thea for Cinema4D version 2.0. Thea for Cinema4D is a fully integrated rendering environment that enables photorealistic renders directly inside Cinema4D. Some of the new features that we will be looking at today are content browser, Thea Shaders, Denoiser, Tonemapping, and overall optimization. So stick around. Today's presenter is George Gliatis. I want to show you this picture. Here it is. George is an awesome 3D artist and now a Thea application specialist. And let me show you a little bit. This is the product page where you can find Thea for Cinema4D on the Novedge website. So come look for it. The 2.0 will be out on July 31st. So come back and get it right fresh out of the oven. And I also want to let you know that we're on all the social media, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram. And I want to remind you that this webinar is recorded and you can watch it again on Vimeo and on YouTube. Just search for Novedge. And I'm going to share George's screen. Hi, George.
Hello.
Great. I'll let you know when I see your screen. It may take a couple of seconds.
Okay.
There it is. There it is. Take it away, George.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar for Thea for Cinema4D version 2. My name is George Gliatis, and before jumping into the new features of Thea for Cinema4D, I will make a brief introduction on Thea Render, some slides on what is Thea Render. So, Thea Render is a biased, unbiased, and GPU renderer. The biased engine is a highly customizable engine with complete control over rendered features, and it's best for scenes with many lights and walkthrough animations. The unbiased engine computes every lighting transfer, and it's highly accurate, having a 0 setup time due to the minimal settings it has. Finally, our GPU renderer called Presto runs on both GPU and CPU at the same time, and it's tuned for interactive rendering. Thea, at its core, is a spectral renderer. It's built on top of a strong mathematical framework, leading to a very robust and biased core. It can be seen as a light simulator, performing calculations in the full visible spectral space, and it's able to render advanced phenomena like volumetric scattering and spectral index of refraction. Some of the core features of Thea Render are volumetric scattering that allows the creation of advanced effects like fog, and advanced materials using subsurface scattering like skin shader. The Presto engine is optimized for both GPU and CPU execution at the same time. It has been tuned for fast interactive rendering, and the multi-GPU support with split workload allows each device on the same machine to work on different parts of the image that leads to faster interactive rendering. Thea also uses an advanced material system that allows the creation of physically based materials. It has a unique advanced material layering scheme that allows the creation of complex material setups that can be created quite easily. So, moving on to the new features of Thea for Cinema4D, one of the most requested features we had was to have a way to add Thea materials in the scene easily, and that's why we created the Thea content browser. It's a replacement for the older lib4d workflow that was used in the previous version, It allows to add Thea materials in the scene and also HDR images. And it also has the option to add custom folders where you have your Thea materials or HDR images. The next feature that we added was Thea Shaders, and it's due to the fact that the material editor is now fully integrated inside Cinema4D without the need to leave the application. So that's why we introduced Thea Shaders, like the Thea Color Shader, allowing you to add RGB color, black body, and spectrum. The Thea Bitmap Shader, that allows you to tone map and modify the texture coordinates of the image. The Thea Layer, Thea procedurals like Berlin noise, concentric, and curl. And finally, the Thea Fresnel ramp. The next feature is back face material support. Thea now supports Cinema4D's back and front material, and this allows you to create materials like sheets of paper, labels, leaves, etc. One new cool feature that we have added is called custom light evaluation. It allows the user to select which components will be evaluated for a given light, and by components I mean the diffuse channel, reflectance channel, translucency, etc. It also allows the user to optimize the scene by removing unwanted contributions. One thing that we paid attention in this release is to optimize Thea for SketchUp. That's why we added multi-threaded transferring, and now transferring of the scene is multi-threaded and is at least 2 times faster than the previous version. Live object tweaking is an option that in version 1.5 the scene was transferred to the engine every time a render was initiated, and for complex scenes this meant a lot of time. Now with live object tweaking, once the scene has been transferred to the engine, it will only transfer the changes to the engine. This practically means that if you do not change anything to the scene and re-render, it will start right away. Finally, we have texture baking. A speed increase has been achieved for the texture baking process, which has to do with the conversion of any non-supported shader by Thea. Another requested feature for Thea for Cinema4D was having a denoiser. In this slide, we have a raw output rendered for 5 minutes and 22 seconds. We have, I need to say that we have 2 denoisers. One is NVIDIA's optics denoiser, which will focus on this webinar. And we have a second method, the built-in denoiser. NVIDIA optics has a great quality even with low samples. It gives instant feedback and removes the remaining noise that requires a lot of time to clear. In this example, the raw output that took 5 minutes to render, after applying the optics denoiser, we get a very clear image. And on the same machine, to achieve the same kind of noise-free image, it was rendering for 50 minutes. Tone mapping is another area which we enhanced and added new features. On top of the default display, the standard tone mapping method we had, we added filmic tone mapping. In this slide, you see filmic tone mapping in action. It gives complete control over the highlights and shadows. It's great for interiors. It allows the user to increase the overall exposure of the scene while keeping details in highlight areas. The second tone mapping method we integrated was the Reinhardt method. It respects the chromaticity of the image, meaning the color's hue and saturation, while adjusting the brightness of each pixel. Reinhardt has 2 methods, global and local. Local tends to create images of higher contrast. Some more of the features we have added are stereoscopic rendering, OpenCL support. It's for Windows only and for specific GPUs. Improved convergence for scenes with many lights, now noise converges faster in these type of scenes. And finally, the split frame feature, which is for multi-GPU systems that can take advantage of the split frame option. And each device renders a part of the frame interactively, leading to faster interactive rendering. Now I will move on to the live session. And I will start by introducing you to the content browser. The content browser can be accessed from the Thea menu right here. As you can see, there are two tabs, Materials and Skies, and it gives you the option to select the category, and then you can either double-click on a thumbnail to add it to the Material Manager, or you can select any object in the scene, right-click, and then select Assign to Active Object, or you can use it directly with right-click to add to the Material Manager. I will assign it to the active object that I have selected. Let me change the projection. Okay. So the content browser replaces the older method with the provided lib4d files that had all the materials, Thea materials. It gives access to the locally saved Thea materials. And it also supports, like I said, HDR images, as it creates a sky object with the HDR image loaded. Moving on to the new feature, which is the Thea Shaders. I will try to show you nearly all the available Thea shaders with one material by creating a fabric shader. So in the diffuse channel, first I will load the Thea layer shader. And the first shader I will add is the Thea bitmap. I will load the fabric for this one. Now, sorry. Yes. Excuse me. Yes, Thea bitmap. Okay, the Thea bitmap shader allows you to change the texture coordinates, offset and UV scaling, also the projection of the image, and it gives options for tone mapping like gamma correction, saturation, brightness, contrast, etc. I will add a second layer from the shader button right here. Let's add a Fresnel ramp shader. The Fresnel ramp shader alters the reflectance with respect to the viewing angle, and it has lots of options. For this one, I will use the gray curve option, and I will start with low values and increase them as we reach the 90 degrees. Let me start interactive rendering. Okay. So on top of the Fresnel ramp, I will also add a Thea color shader to tint the overall color. Let's go with a blue. Okay. And the Thea color shader doesn't only provide access to RGB colors, as it can be used to select black body and spectrum that can be used for emitters. So let me load another scene. This is for the next feature that I would like to show you. It's about custom light evaluation. It's a very nice feature. And as I said earlier, it allows you to select which component will be evaluated for a given light. So let me start interactive rendering. Okay, I will let it clear. So in this scene, I have a basic plastic material. The second one is a plastic material having translucency. The next one is a thin film shader that also has medium in it. And the last one is a glass shader. So I have an emitter that lights the scene. It can be seen right here. And if I select the material, in the emittance tab, we have a new rollout. It's called Custom Light Evaluation, and it has all these 5 options: diffuse, translucency, reflectance, excuse me, transmittance, and medium SSS. So the first thing you will notice when I will turn off the diffuse option, you will see that the light no longer casts, emits, or contributes to the lighting for the diffuse component for all the materials in the scene. Let me turn it back on and have a look at the second sphere, which has translucency. And you will notice that if I turn off translucency, then the light does not affect translucency for this specific object, but for any other object in the scene that uses translucency. Reflectance is quite convenient when you want to light the scene, but you do not want the emitter to appear in any of the reflections in the scene. So you just untick reflectance and it goes away. Same goes with transmittance. If I turn off transmittance, then the light no longer passes through the glass object, as you can see here. And finally, medium SSS, like I said earlier, this sphere, the third one, this one has medium enabled in the material. So if I turn off medium, then the light no longer contributes to the lighting of the medium. So let's move on to the next feature, which is the back face support. In the new version, we also support the back and front options that the Cinema4D has. So I have 2 fabric materials right here. I will drag them to the object, and I will start interactive rendering again. All right, so for the first material, I will switch to the front side, and for the other one, I will select back, and you will see right away that you can create all kind of materials that has to do with paper, sheets of paper, or leaves, or labels for bottles, etc. One area that we also made enhancements is the sun positioning tool. I have a simple scene that's being illuminated with a sky object. The enhancement that we made has to do with sun position. It now displays any HDR image that you have loaded, or EXR, of course, that you loaded in the IBL section. And it now allows you to match the position of the Thea sun that can be selected with a single click. And you can point to the area where the sun of the IBL is, and in this way you can match the shadows and the lighting of the scene. So let me turn off the sun, and you can see the shadow of the object of the sun of the IBL. So this is pretty convenient. Instead of trying to match the position, you can just click on the IBL and position the sun correctly. So let's move on to another scene and interior we have created. And I would like to show you another feature that we added. It's the denoising. I will render in production mode to show you this, but firstly, let me show you how you can enable the noise. It's on the Thea Render settings, and from the denoise drop-down, we have two options. We have the non-local means. This is our own implementation for denoising, the built-in denoiser, and optics. So basically, all you have to do is select optics from the drop-down list, and then I can start with pretty low samples. It's pretty low for this kind of scene. What I wanted to tell you about the NVIDIA, both denoisers, is that NVIDIA optics requires an NVIDIA GPU to run. It gives great results even at low samples. It's very helpful for the look development phase where you want to try different materials or want a quick feedback on the lighting and more. And it surely can be used for final renderings, as it removes the remaining noise that could take minutes or hours to remove the noise. So as you can see now, the rendering is complete. It took about 54 seconds to finish. To denoise the image, all you have to do is to tick the optics checkbox and take a look at any part of the image that has noise, and you will see straight away that we get a pretty noise-free image. And as I said in the PowerPoint, in the presentation, this scene, to be noise-free, I had to use lots of samples, like 4,000 samples, and it took around 50 minutes to complete. So it's a very nice feature. Now moving on to the next feature, which has to do with tone mapping. We added two different methods, filmic tone mapping and Reinhardt. The filmic tone mapping gives complete control over highlights and shadows. It's great for this type of scenes, this interior scene, and it allows the user to increase the exposure without losing any details. And I will show you right away. I will just switch to the filmic tone mapping method, and you will see right away that areas that have direct light, like in this case the sun, the standard tone mapping method gives very bright areas that are hard to do anything with them without, I mean, you cannot increase the overall exposure of the scene without having these areas coming brighter all the time. So what filming does is that it allows you to control the highlights with two options, highlights and shadows. And by decreasing the highlights, you can also remove the brightness of these spots, and you can bring back details that were lost in the standard display. Reinhardt comes in two different methods. It's Reinhardt global and Reinhardt local, and you can see right away, and like I said, Reinhardt tries to respect the chromaticity of the image. It will try to keep the same color, the hue and saturation of each pixel, the color of each pixel, and it adjusts the brightness to tone down the image. And it's a great algorithm for these types of scenes. You can see that immediately that we can see the sky coming back. The difference with Reinhardt global and local is that local tends to create images of slightly higher contrast, as you can see here. And so this brings me to the end of the live session. I have one last slide to show you. Let me bring back PowerPoint. It has to do with upcoming features. It's features that will be coming in the first update of Thea for Cinema 4D. We will be adding Thea Relight. And for those of you that you're not aware of what Relight is, Relight allows the user to create different lighting scenarios from a single rendering. And you can also create light animations. We will also be adding easier fog creation with simple controls that allows the user to create atmospheric effect in scenes. We will also add an online repository inside the content browser, so you will have access to all the online materials that we have in the repository, which are around 1,000 materials and more. And finally, support for all Thea procedurals. So this brings me to the end. If you have any questions, I will gladly answer any of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. That was great. That looks really good. We're very excited, and we don't have to wait too long. July 31st, and you can find it at novedge.com. So if you have any question, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. Don't be shy. We're here for you. Ask us anything. So George, yes, we will be waiting a few minutes, and
Yes,
well,
thank you, Barbara.
these are great features. Did you listen to feedback from users to implement the new features? Do you usually get a lot of suggestions?
Yes, yes, of course. It's an ongoing project. We always try to listen to users. And we have positive feedback from our user base. They have already started testing the features.
Yeah, cool.
And yes, yes,
That's
they're
the
all
best
great.
way. Yes. So we have a question. Will Thea Render version 2 standalone be available at the same time as the release of version 2 for Cinema 4D?
I think that Thea Studio, the standalone version, will be released at the end of this year, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
It
so a
will be
little
not in the
longer.
same time, yes, because now Thea for Cinema 4D is uh, we have removed the dependency of Thea Studio, so everything happens inside Cinema 4D. You don't have to go away from the application to create materials like it was before.
Yes. Okay, so a few more months. I hope that, that is not too long, and you can, you know, you can be patient and wait. Okay. I don't see any more questions, but I'll still wait. And then, in the meantime, I think I'm gonna, while I still look up for questions, I'll take the screen back so I can be ready to do my final wrap. And in the meantime, I also want to show you, want to thank you for joining us today, first of all, and I want to show you the page where you can find the new Thea version 2 on the Novedge website starting Tuesday. And I want to remind you that Novedge is one of the largest online stores for design software. And coincidentally, we also sell Cinema 4D, and among many other things. And so we have another question. Do you know the upgrade price by any chance from 1.5 to 2.0? I don't know if you are the sales information.
No, yes.
Yeah.
Uh, you can go to the Thea render website, but this is not really my.
Yes. And I don't
I'm
think,
not very good
yeah,
at prices. Yes.
you'll have to wait till Tuesday. Sorry, I don't think the information is public yet. Will it be a real procedural support, or will the procedurals be baked to images?
All the Thea shaders that we introduced among the Thea procedurals are not being baked from the engine, so they are faster to render. So any non-supported Thea shader will be converted with texture baking.
Okay, cool. That's cool. All right, and this is it. I don't think I see any more questions, but I want to also remind you that this webinar has been recorded. So if you want to watch it again, you can go on YouTube or Vimeo and look for Novedge, and you can see tons of Novedge webinars. There's a webinar for every software space. Believe me. Okay, thanks so much for your time, George. This was wonderful. We're very excited about the new release, and we'll talk to you soon. And thanks for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
and thank you, everybody, for
Bye, bye,
watching. Bye.
everybody.